Ed.
Yep, we're live now, Chair. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Right, good evening and welcome to the West Neighbourhood Forum. The forum is made up of elected members of the council. I am Councillor Quinn and I am the chair of the West Neighbourhood Forum. This is a public meeting and as such this meeting is being webcast to the public. Members of the public watching the meeting can submit questions to the forum throughout the meeting using the form on the right or below the webcast, depending on your device. At the end of each item, the forum will hear questions submitted. When submitting your question, please leave your name and the agenda item or subject matter that your question relates to. Only questions relating to items on the agenda will be accepted. You can find the agenda available to download next to the webcast. The clerk tonight is Natasha Matthews, who will be receiving questions by the public. Right. Have we got any apologies, Natasha?
Yeah, so we've got apologies from Councillor Ward and Councillor Newton, Chair.
Right, thank you. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. Any issues? And somebody move their minutes?
Move them, Sue.
Right, thank you, Vinny. Right, item 3 is the enforcement update, and I believe, Emma, you're introducing this, and I'm passing over to Dave.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, so Dave is with me today, and he's going to put up some slides, and we'll talk you through it. Just a bit of an introduction. In the last 18 months, 2 years, we refocused our neighbourhood staffing to look at more enforcement across the borough. And we went through a service redesign. And Dave, if you go on to the next slide for me, thank you. So we wanted to have a look at how we were using our powers as a local authority to enforce the various legislation that we have available to us. That's not to say the majority of residents and businesses are really compliant, they're really helpful, they really enjoy their neighbourhood, and they keep things tidy and they abide by the laws that we have within the borough. But there are some circumstances where either we have to engage with both residents and businesses to improve standards, or once that's happened and there's seen no improvement, we can enforce. So this slide really shows you some of the broad areas that we can enforce as a local authority. We can't forget as well antisocial behaviour, which is also there are sort of 2 levels of antisocial behaviour, and Dave's going to talk a bit about that, but we have powers to enforce against antisocial behaviour as a local authority, as do the police. So what I will say is that we bring most of our activity to an enforcement panel, which many people here actually sit on that enforcement panel, and it allows members to scrutinise and advise and keep us accountable for our activity. And it's a really good opportunity for us to perhaps give some of the background to what we're doing, and for members to point out to us areas they would like us to focus on. We also give members an opportunity to get involved in some of the activity that we do. And you'll see later on our Streets campaign, many people have contributed to those days, and we really appreciate people's contribution. The only other thing I would say is, I always say it when I'm talking about enforcement, is it's important for you to keep us updated when you see something that's or you've been approached by members of the public. You need to keep us updated with perhaps an area that we need to look into. Lots of you do that anyway when it comes to fly tipping, or an area where housing enforcement, licensing, we get, you know, really good dialogue with elected members, and it's a really helpful area for us to pinpoint our activity. But I would also say, you know, working with the police, it's important that if you've got residents who are concerned about crime, that they report it either anonymously through Crime Stoppers, but also they can log it on the internet as well as phoning it through. We do, you know, people do get frustrated with phoning things through, but do log things with the internet, or perhaps connect with your local neighbourhood police officer. Our own community safety team can make contacts for you as well. So what we're going to show you first, and I'll let Dave take you through it, is some of the work done by Public Protection in my team. We've got both Public Protection Department and Community Safety, and we're going to show you some of the activity from both departments in this presentation. So Dave, do you want to show the next slide and take it away, as it were?
Yeah, thank you, Emma, and thank you, Chair. On there. Okay, so this slide really is an overview of the enforcement activity conducted by the Public Protection team between January and September of this year. So it's a bit of a slide by numbers, if you will, and it shows what functions have been undertaken by the team. It's been split into the relevant sections because obviously under the Public Protection team there is food safety, trading standards, waste enforcement, parking, environmental protection, and housing standards. So there's an array of different activity that goes on there, and you can see from the numbers themselves there, they are quite high, really. I think one of the standout things to look at is around trading standards. I certainly think the illicit cigarettes that have been seized this year alone, 200,000, is a very high number, along with non-compliant vapes, which are a danger, both in terms of the actual vaping themselves, but also the fact that they can explode, and the huge amount of counterfeit goods that have been seized as well, just over 6,000, and I'll talk a little bit further around that after. I'll also touch on the waste enforcement aspect as well. We've got a couple of slides to show you in relation to that will highlight some of the work that's gone on in that area. But as you can see, vast number of inspections that are carried out by the food safety team. Improvement notices obviously served as part of the course of their duties when they are appropriate to do so. And similarly with the environmental protection team who look at the environmental nuisance and the abatement notices that they've served there. High number of housing standard service requests, and obviously the inspections that they've conducted there in support of the Homes for Ukraine inspections, and also the houses of multiple occupancy inspections as well. So just moving on from that slide, I just wanted to cover a couple of the enforcement highlights, if you will, in relation to kind of what's been going on again in this time period of January to September of this year. So the first three items there are some of the waste prosecutions that have been conducted by the authority. The council do publicise these prosecutions, and I think one of the big ones is the one involving Mr. Gleave there at the top, Leon's Removal Services. This was a job where the individual was advertising on Facebook, offering services to remove the rubbish. When the rubbish had been dumped, fly tipped, it was the fly tip was investigated, and it was linked to two separate households. An investigation took place in relation to that, contacted the relevant households who were informed of where they found that service, and they supported a prosecution and provided statements in relation to that activity. So that was a successful prosecution through the courts. and the other two there, Miss Butler and Miss Fairhurst, they were for prosecutions of dumping in the street, dumping their waste in the street. It's important to note that households are responsible for their own waste, and I suppose highlighting the fact, and if this message is to be spread far and wide, if people are looking to have waste removal from their properties, it's on them to do their homework in terms of checking that waste carriers are licensed to do so. And the way of doing that is via checking via the Environment Agency website. Licensing panel hearings. A key one of note, I suppose, for the Denton area is the Crown Point Tavern. The premises license for this premises was revoked back in July, 15th of July. That decision has been appealed through the courts. Unfortunately, due to the backlog that exists in the courts at the moment, an appeal hearing won't be heard until October of 2025. But the licensing team, are obviously continuing to work with the police to monitor that premises. They're obviously able to conduct their business in an appeal period. And as I say, the team are monitoring there and are aware of further breaches of their license conditions, and will be looking to take further enforcement action in relation to those breaches. Another note on there is just around the upcoming days of action. We obviously had an operation yesterday, a day of action yesterday, I should say, in Hyde, and that yielded 4 fixed penalty notices. So that's a positive. And you'll note there for the other days of action that have been planned through the public protection team, 13th of November, there is a planned day in Droylsden, and the manager for that service area, Mike Robinson, is going to be in touch with members to send invites in relation to that day. So Operation Avro, I'm sure you'll be aware that this day took place Thursday the 19th of September. A really positive day for Tameside. A really positive in a sense of what was achieved on the day, but also from a multi-agency partnership working point of view. You may have seen in the local press, because it was well documented, 41 arrests occurred during this day of action, and that was on the back of warrants being executed for drug offences, sexual offences and domestic abuse offences. But as well as that, in terms of what had gone on in terms of those warrants, we have had roadside checks that were conducted on licensed vehicles, and also waste carrier vehicles as well. They were conducted with our licensing team and the police, so a very productive operation there. And also there was engagement stalls, we call them, and we work them within the town centre. This is where the community safety team, as well as officers from Greater Manchester Police and other services, come together and provide information and advice to members of the public. We also had the information engagement stalls in the colleges as well, to support their days of action as well. So a really kind of productive, all round good partnership working day, really, and one I think we should be extremely proud of locally. Just moving on from that, and again as part of the Operation Avro day of action, Trading Standards team had a really positive day in terms of a warrant that they executed, where they seized nearly £500,000 worth of counterfeit goods. This was from a self-storage unit, actually based in Ashton, but there was lots of, you can see from the slide there, lots of counterfeit goods, clothing, sportswear, trainers, fragrances, working with obviously the police and the wagtail dog as well. So just a really productive operation. So just to talk a little bit about fly tipping. don't want to teach anybody to suck eggs, but what is it? Well, it's an offence, fly tipping, Section 33 of the Environmental Protection Act, and it's where people dispose of their household waste, industrial waste, commercial waste on the land, whether that be public or private land. It's important to know that when we do get reports, and we get many, and I'll touch on this very, very shortly in terms of the next couple of slides, in terms of the amount of fly tipping complaints we get, the council do assess all the reports that are received, because it's important to determine whether or not the land in which the waste is dumped on is council owned or it's private land. So obviously the council will be responsible for the removal of that and take action accordingly, where they investigate to see if they can find the perpetrator for the fly tipping, and similarly we will support private landowners in the removal of that waste as well from their land. We do have the ability to serve statutory notice on private landowners who do not remove the waste from their land. So just a bit of a slide, fly tipping data by numbers. You can see we've had we get a lot of fly tipping reports. The graph on the left indicates that over the past 4 or 5 years. And I think probably more impressively in relation to that is the graph to the right-hand side, which shows the number of fixed penalty notices that have been issued in relation to those fly tipping incidents, and you can see that graph is heading firmly in the right direction in relation to that. 275 fixed penalty notices issued this year to date, and there was a total of 166 173 in last year. So we've got a rise of around 68% in terms of the annual increase in fixed penalty notices served across the borough. Specifically to the west area, there were 30 fixed penalty notices issued last year, and to date we have 75 issued this year. So that is an increase of 150% in terms of the fixed penalty notices that have been issued, which again is testament to that team in terms of the hard work that they're putting into to combat the fly tipping issue that arises, and dealing with those reports effectively. How are we tackling the problem? Well, a number of ways really. First and foremost, we've made it easier for people to report fly tipping. We've done that via our Tell Tameside app. We hope in this day and age, by using apps and by reporting quickly and efficiently through the app, we're able to respond to those reports quicker. Obviously, the quicker you respond to the reports, the more evidence you're able to secure in terms of trying to identify where that waste has come from. We've targeted hotspot areas, and we continue to monitor those hotspot areas where we have the high-end reports. As I mentioned before, days of action, they are something that we are looking to have continually, where we will go to an area and investigate and hopefully secure evidence to bring perpetrators of fly tipping to justice. We are increasing the communication around bins as well, in terms of how to get rid of your waste. We find that can sometimes be a barrier. Even now, people not being aware of which bin to use for their own waste. And obviously to see, and in the earlier slide, you see that big pile of waste, it looks awful. And you know, for people to see that and hopefully feel that, then you know, the idea is we want people to act responsibly, but also give them the means and the education to understand how they get rid of waste, and ultimately the consequences of what can happen if they are found guilty of fly tipping. And we've also had a CCTV camera trial as well in relation to mobile mobile CCTV. We've had some success with that, and again, it's something that we are looking to formalise in terms of securing more mobile CCTV cameras. Just moving on to antisocial behaviour. You'll see this graph here. This shows the amount of complaints we've had to date. Again, in this January to September period of this year, in the Audenshaw, Denton, and Droylsden area. We've got 50. We had 50 reports so far. And I must stress also with this slide, this doesn't take into account antisocial behaviour complaints that the police are receiving, nor what our registered social landlords will be receiving as well. We obviously work as an antisocial behaviour team very closely with those other services, but not all. They are not deemed as obviously reports to us all the time. So just a point to stress there in relation to that. We had 86 ASB reports for this area in the entirety of 2023. So whilst we have seen an increase in other areas around ASB, for the remainder of this year, we might actually not get as many reports. And I do want to stress, because obviously there's different things that occur in terms of ASB reports. We might have a certain area that accumulates many different types of reports, but is one incident. So if I use the example of Victoria Park, obviously over the summer months in Denton, a lot of good work went on around that. It was a lot of time and effort in to try and alleviate the issues that were going on in that park. As you can imagine, it's a time-consuming job, but through the partnership working that we had with police, local schools, our CCTV team, we were able to identify 18 youths that were involved in ASB in that park, and as a result, we sent out 18 parental letters, 5 of which were stage 1 acceptable behaviour contract letters. And we had a positive response to that, to the point where we had parents who were unaware of their children in the park causing that nuisance. We had one of the youths actually ring one of our antisocial behaviour officers with a bit of an apology for what had gone on in the park. So really a good piece of work. So unfortunately, we have to go to those lengths, but positive action taken there, and ultimately, we are going to obviously get those incidents where we're going to have to take more firmer action, and ultimately some of these youths get involved in the criminal aspect. Think about things like criminal damage when they've wrecked bowling huts, for example. We also had some successful referrals as well into a boxing club, a youth diversion program that was that we ran and is running through one of our grant schemes. So there's that element to consider. But yeah, just going back to that slide, you'll see the reports to the left and then how we've resolved those cases on the right hand side there, and the vast majority we've resolved without further incident, and that's a real that's a good thing. It's in our eyes, it's not a success if you're having to take, from an antisocial behaviours perspective, if you're having to take people to court. It's got to a stage where you've got to that. We want to alleviate those issues prior to getting to a courtroom. Resilient Communities Fund. When I was speaking to this forum in March, we were just about to launch the Resilient Communities Fund. Just to kind of recap on what that fund is. We receive an annual grant from the Deputy Mayor's Office as part of the Community Safety Partnership grant, and we have certain criteria to abide by in order to spend that money. And one of the grants is around spending it via the voluntary community sector. So these are great evenings. We had the West events. We hold an event in each area, North, East, South and West. We held this event at Trinity Church on the 13th of June. and we had 5 successful groups who benefited from grant money based on the projects that they put forward. It's important to note that the projects underpin the Greater Manchester Standing Together Police and Crime Plan, and also our local community safety strategy. And the projects that were put forward had to meet certain themes: prevent crime and reduce fear of crime, improve environmental resilience and challenges, reduce antisocial behaviour, and to empower communities. So, as I say, we had 5 successful groups on the night. Unfortunately, there were 6 unsuccessful ones, but the actual evening themselves are always very uplifting. We always get good feedback in relation to these from those involved. Some of the quotes that we've had talks about it being, and I'll read one that I just found it's fantastic. It's uplifting and lovely to see an evening of positivity about what Tameside can achieve as a community, and that's the kind of underpinning message you get when you come to these events. You really see the community in action, and it's very humbling and inspiring to see what work goes on within our voluntary community sector groups for the benefit of Tameside. So yeah, that's the Resilient Communities Fund, and we continue to monitor those projects that have been funded throughout the course of the year, in line with the grant conditions, to ensure that what's been applied for and being done is being carried out. And to date, with pleased to report that's all good. Just wanted to talk a little bit around the Tameside CCTV service. Probably a little bit of an unsung hero type thing with this team, to be honest with you. We take probably for granted that the CCTV system network is there and it's looking out for us, and I just kind of really wanted to highlight the good work that's done by that team in terms of the operators that are in there, very skilled, very vigilant, absolutely on the game really, and the things that they see and are able to alert emergency services to is really, really good. They obviously work around the clock. They're connected to the police in terms of the police radio. I just wanted to put on that slide as well, around 2002. I know it's a couple of years ago now, but they were awarded a Chief Superintendent Certificate of Commendation for the work that they do. It's highly recognised by the police. They can get on the radio, they can shout for CCTV, and they can get eyes on where we've got CCTV coverage. They clock an array of things: fly tipping, criminal damage being caused, catching drunk drivers, getting in the vehicles and getting police to them before they can drive off. And they also are able to identify wanted individuals in the borough and divert police to those locations. So just a really positive service. And as I say there, at the bottom of that slide there, we are looking to increase the mobile CCTVs that we've had on trial. We're just weighing up our options in relation to those in order to secure some more for the borough that can be put in hotspot areas concerning ASB and fly tipping areas. And I think that's everything from me, Chair. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Dave. Can I just come in? You know, on the CCTV cameras, how many have we got at the moment? The mobile ones for fly tipping.
We've had on trial. We had on trial two cameras.
Right.
But we're looking at. Is that stop sharing? Am I still sharing? Sorry, there we go. Yeah, so we're looking, but we are looking, because of the success that we've had with them, we are looking at increasing those. There's just some homework we need to do in relation to make sure we get the best deal available to us as a council.
Right, and then I gather there'll be a list somewhere of the areas that are most for fly tipping.
Yes.
There'll be a priority list.
Yes, yeah. So the waste enforcement team do have location data by numbers in terms of where those reports are most frequent and the investigations that they do. And we once we secure the cameras, then we'll be obviously aligning that with that, but also other areas as well where we might, you know, I'll use the analogy of Victoria Park. I know we've had a camera placed in there in the background. That was a piece of work that was done as part of the summer work. But if we get reports of ASB, then it gives us the opportunity to utilise that if it's not covered by cameras already.
Right. Thank you for that, Dave.
Thank you, Chair.
Natasha, is there any questions?
Yeah, we've just got Councillor Axford, Chair.
Right. Go ahead, Nick.
Thanks for the presentation there. Great to see about the prosecutions of waste in particular with the Lyons removal services, which is in one of our hotspots, I believe. So great to see that. Just about the mobile CCTV cameras. How long are they normally in an area for? Yeah, are they there for weeks, days, or how long really?
Well, we only had a trial period for the ones that we've used, so that we had them for a couple of months. So I think the idea would be moving forward. We'd obviously be determined by the data, but if we've got a hotspot area and we are utilising that CCTV in that area, and bear in mind that wouldn't be covert, so we'd need to advertise the fact that we've got CCTV in that area. It would make sense for me to think we'd keep it in that area until we see a change of behaviour and we see a decline in fly tipping before we'd use anywhere else.
Do you mind if I come in, if that's okay? So, Councillor Axford, we had a try because we wanted to see whether we wanted to invest in the kind of cameras. So we're looking at different types for different environments as well. So countryside versus the urban environment. We had it for a couple of weeks and it did work really well. And even though we have the ICO requires us to advertise, even though it's advertised, we were still catching people. In addition to that, members of the public, if they have CCTV on their own land, it has to be on their own land, not surveying, having surveillance on the street. But if it's on their own land, we can use that in evidence if it's given to us. So the Ring doorbell, for instance, lots of people have that. If they're able to capture something, then we're able to use that evidence. But I just wanted to mention that because that is an additional way that we can provide enough evidence. So it has to be very clear, the quality has to be very good, but we do need to advertise when we as a local authority are putting up CCTV. It needs to be advertised that we are recording, so that members of the public do know. But you will be surprised still we're catching people. So but you know, many of us have, you know, CCTV on our own land now, and I mean that in a kind of just outside your house, so we're able to access that as part of evidence, and the team will take that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was thinking as well if there's going to be a more deterrence or enforcement thing with whether they be marked or not, but that's good to know that they would be marked, that they are there.
Thank you for that, Emma.
Can I come in, Sue? Sec?
Yeah, go on, Vinny.
It's just regarding the Crown Point Tavern. You know, the stuff that's gone on there has been, frankly, horrendous, really. You know, it's been all over social media what's been going on. And I'm not blaming the officers one bit, nor the police. It's just so frustrating that they've had the licence taken off them, and everybody was so pleased that the licence had been taken off them because of the trouble that had been gone on the square. And now it's like a slap in the face that they've appealed, and they can carry on trading until next October. It's such a shame. I'm just wondering if when they get their appeal date in October, I think they've already got that, if they play games like they have done and not turn up, have they any forced, or will they get another date and it linger on again?
I think, Councillor, I mean, in terms of the court, I mean, it would be they would have to appeal to the court for an adjournment of a trial date.
What I'm saying is, if they don't turn up on that next trial date, which is in October sometime, will it be dealt with in their absence?
Yeah, potentially.
Oh, that's good. But it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating for officers as well, all the work that's gone on behind the scenes, and then they go on appeal and they've got sort of an extension of about 16 months to carry on trading.
Well, Vinny, I sat on that panel.
Yeah. Well, you know what's gone on, Sue, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
So we had all the residents up in arms when they got the news that they had the license taken off them. They was over the moon, and they'd still contacted us, wanting to know why they're still trading. And then when we give them the news that we give them, it's a joke. Tameside Council's a joke, can't they? It's nothing to do with Tameside Council, really.
No, it's not.
Just a shame. Right, thank you.
Right. Natasha, any other questions?
Yeah, Councillor Martin, Chair.
Right.
Thank you. Just a question about reporting and social behaviour. Just going back to that pie chart where there was 54 reports between January and now. We're having issues with Rycroft Hall, like a lot of our parks for every ward. It attracts antisocial behaviour. And I think what we would like to see is like a package of support, but we know that's dependent on reporting, and we're arguably seeing a lack of reporting. I think it's got a lot better with the 101 sort of reporting, because that's had a letter drop and a lot of communications from the police from our last catch up. My question is how effective is the email inbox, and do we look at doing things differently if we're seeing quite low reporting in areas? Like, you could arguably say Aldenshaw is having a low reporting uptake, and what are we doing about that?
I mean, well, in terms of the antisocial behaviour inbox, so ASB at tameside.gov.uk is a monitored inbox. It's monitored daily. So any reports that come into that inbox would be tasked to the officer responsible for that area. Similarly, if reports are being made to Greater Manchester Police about Rycroft, using that as the example, should that cause demand, then we have a problem solving forum in terms of the GPOP meeting, which is the G Divisional Police orientated problem solving meeting. We could have it in that we could discuss the issues in that forum. I mean, I must admit, I'm not aware of Rycroft, so it would indicate that there is underreporting. I'm always conscious that people tend to maybe put things on social media as opposed to reporting through the correct channels. So what I would say, Council, if there is anybody who is suffering ASB in that part, please do refer them to our website and our email, particularly. That means that liaison would start, and then we can obviously investigate what's happening, and we can bring the conversation in with the police as well. But as I say, if it was a high repeat demand issue, then I would like to think that once that goes into police and lands with the neighbourhood teams, they would come to my team as well and include us in that conversation around antisocial behaviour. We certainly have those links there with the area sergeants and inspectors and the neighbourhood policing teams themselves. So all I can say is if there is that, please ask people to report. Please ask people to report them. And I think underreporting is an issue. I think And similarly through Crime Stoppers, like Emma mentioned before, if people, I think people might be worried about repercussions, they can report things anonymously through Crime Stoppers. That feeds into the intelligence machine, and if we're starting to get enough reports about an area, then it can, it'll get looked at.
Yeah,
it does need to be reported.
Chair, if I could come in as well,
Yeah.
Councillor Martin, I think it's really easy for us as residents to forget that the social media isn't kind of, we're not and we wouldn't ever be looking at social media to pick those things up. So anything we can do officially will definitely pinpoint resources, and we have regular weekly meetings with the police as partners to discuss where, in a kind of neighbourhood way, we should be focusing our efforts. So absolutely, please encourage residents to do that, because it does make a difference, and I've seen it make a difference, to be fair. So when you get a sense of the community galvanising, it really does help with us pinpointing resources. So that's our best advice, really, is to advocate for partners to come together and support those areas. And anybody on Facebook, please do it through the online, either through the email as Dave's referred to, or through the police's website. It does make a difference.
Thank you for that, Emma. Any other questions, Natasha?
No further questions, Chair. Can't see any hands raised.
Right. Well, thank you, Emma and Dave, for that presentation, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. Item 4 is the next date of the meeting, which will be on the 23rd of January next year. Seems forever away, doesn't it? But it'll be here before you know it.
Happy Christmas to everyone.
Can I just remind members if there's any items they would like to go on to the neighbourhood for the next meeting, if they can let Natasha know. Hopefully we will have the police at the next one. But if have a think about it, and if there's anything you'd like to see on the agenda, please let Natasha know. Right, can I thank you all for attending the meeting, and enjoy the rest of the evening. And Vinny, enjoy the football.